Hi, as you obviously know by now, I'm Tommy, and it's been my genuine pleasure to bring you this 8-part video series, Rise from Fear into Love. This will be our last video, wherein we'll project forward to see what the future holds for humanity, and is appropriately titled, The Future of Humanity. Admittedly, most of this stuff will be speculative, but it's not difficult to extrapolate from what we know so far as to how an advanced civilization will act. So we'll discuss that topic for a bit, and then I'll see if I can wedge in some ways to connect to your guidance and all that other stuff. Stick with me, we're almost done. Again, as with all of these videos in the Rise series, they are intended to be watched sequentially. So if you haven't watched the previous 7 videos, please go back and watch these first. I know, if you stumble upon this by accident, the thought of going back and watching 7 more videos before you return to this one sounds daunting, but I promise you, it's worth it. I've even put a link back to video number 1 in the description box below, so it's nice and easy for you. And now, on to our regularly scheduled content. The first and most obvious shift in moving from an ego-based society into a source-based society is that now the qualities of source become the driving force behind our societies. Diversity will be honored and respected, and people with different skin tones, sexual orientations, nationalities, etc. will all have a seat at the table. The sharing of their differing experiences will help ensure a fair and equitable system of government. A social safety net will be in place to ensure that no one goes without the basics of survival, including a home, income, education, and healthcare. With their basic needs met, as conscious creators, people will be free to pursue whatever brings their heart the most joy and fulfillment, including creating great works of art and music, as well as great businesses that provide jobs and goods and services for the masses. Corporations will be allowed to generate sufficient profits, and any excess will be thrown into a global pool to be distributed in the best interests of all citizens, such as ensuring clean drinking water, food, housing, etc. Since equality will be a cornerstone, the pay gap will be eliminated. Individuals will be allowed to generate sufficient income, and any excess will be thrown into a global pool to be distributed in the best interests of all citizens, such as ensuring clean drinking water, food, housing, etc. With love, compassion, abundance, and equality at the core of our societies, we needn't worry about corruption, as it will be intrinsically known that as each person benefits, society as a whole benefits. Governments will truly be of the people, by the people, and for the people, ensuring that all citizens are cared for. An international court will settle disputes between nations. With abundance and compassion as key components, disputes will no longer need military intervention, and militaries globally can be drastically reduced, if not eliminated. People will have the understanding that we are immortal beings that cannot be damaged or destroyed, and that ending someone's incarnation early without their consent would not be an act in alignment with Source, and thus firearm deaths will be eliminated, eliminating the need for most, if not all, firearms. The reduction of global militaries and personal firearms will not come by mandate, but by a rise in global consciousness, making weapons unnecessary. The funds previously used to fund the military can then be thrown into a global pool to be distributed in the best interest of all citizens, such as ensuring clean drinking water, food, housing, etc. Were someone to commit a crime, the individual would be helped to understand the repercussions and effect their actions have caused, and would be offered an opportunity to make amends. If the individual posed a danger to society, and for some reason were to not take accountability for their actions, or refuse to make amends, they would be removed and given time and resources to heal whatever trauma or circumstances caused them to desire to commit the crime in the first place. Society's understanding would be that only a person sufficiently damaged or trapped in the egoic ideas of separation, superiority, or fear would commit such an act. The goal, then, would not be to punish, but to help the individual heal, so that any further crimes would be unnecessary. Societies would not, by their own volition, create in such a way as to enshrine certain individuals or groups as superior to others. Thus, while competition would remain a healthy outlet, interest in games that require one winner and many losers, typically ending in one individual or group taking home a trophy, would fade, and games to enhance joy would be created. Sports would be restructured to benefit all participants and observers. The Earth will finally be understood to be the source of all life on this planet, and rather than seeing it as separate from us, we'll see ourselves as an extension of it, working in unison in a vast and complex species system, which functions best if we stay out of the way. Energy will be captured in a way that is in harmony with nature, rather than at odds with it. Farming will be done in such a way that honors the earth and allows the earth to share its abundance with us. Food distribution networks will be created and implemented so that no one need go hungry. People will still have the freedom to be vegetarian, omnivorous, or carnivorous, but any animals raised for food will have their sovereignty respected and be treated with care and dignity. Animal communicators will help facilitate any issues that arise in the treatment of animals, both food and domestic. And environmental mystics will help control the weather patterns and mitigate climate change. Which brings me to mystics. We will honor the variety of experiences that humanity allows us to have, which means that we will honor the scientist as well as the mystic. Scientific instruments and data will help us monitor the physical world, and mystics will be brought in to help with the non-physical. As the vibration of humanity rises, it will be easier for more people to tap into their intuitive psychic gifts, in the same way that it's easier to jump 6 feet off the ground when you're standing on a 5-foot platform than if you're trying to do it while standing on the ground. In the same way, it's much easier to raise your spiritual vibration when you're in the presence of an enlightened master. I don't usually see auras, but when I'm around someone who can see auras, it makes it much easier. I still have to concentrate, but it's easier when I'm in the energy field of someone who can. This is why in India, disciples will often meditate at a guru's feet. By sitting in the energy field of a guru, one is granted the grace of the guru, and it becomes much easier to attain higher levels of consciousness and awareness. It's much easier to see into the non-physical when you're around someone who can see into the non-physical, such as Jesus or Edgar Cayce. Just imagine what humanity can do when all of humanity vibrates at the frequency of Jesus. But just as with physical expressions such as sports, art, and music, there will be some people who are better at it than others, and some who excel at it to such a degree that they become practically world famous. The world of the mystical will become more mainstream, and while interspecies communicators and indigenous people can help to work with agriculture, farming, and working with the land, psychics can help with past life trauma and healing. And energy workers can work to heal blocks in the non-physical energy bodies of people to help them release trauma or ascend in their intuitive development. If I haven't lost you yet, we're about to get really crazy. An acceptance by mainstream scientists of the non-physical universe and metaphysical laws will open up new scientific frontiers. An understanding of the law of attraction and the formula for world peace allow for instantaneous non-physical or astral travel on and off world. It will also allow us to receive guidance on how to achieve faster physical travel on and off world. By tapping into a higher, more powerful energy source of pure creative thought energy, faster than light travel will be accomplished, allowing us to finally meet our intergalactic neighbors, and alien life will finally be known to the masses. Of course, Living in a source-based society, we'll realize that we have nothing to fear, so meeting them will finally be of value to us, especially when it comes to growth, healing, and working with the non-physical. And yes, I did just say aliens. Did I lose you there? It's okay. I don't have a crystal ball. I'm just speculating. Do I know for sure that aliens exist? No. Do I have any evidence of aliens? No. Have I ever met an alien? No. Am I convinced that anyone who owns a lizard is an alien? Yes, definitely. But before you dismiss this as more of my craziness, let's look at the Drake equation. The Drake equation is a simple calculation that estimates the number of advanced species in a galaxy by way of counting the number of stars and reducing that number by how many would have planets, then reducing that number again by how many of those could theoretically contain life, and how many of those probably contain life, then by how many of those would develop intelligent life, and then how many of those would find a way to communicate. In the case of our galaxy, Drake estimated that the Milky Way, a moderately sized galaxy, would contain probably between 1,000 and 100 million advanced civilizations. Of course, all of this is speculative, but keep in mind that there are over 100 billion known galaxies. So even if we reduce the number of intelligent species in the Milky Way from 1,000 down to 1, us, and assume that it was a decent number for a galaxy, that's still over 100 billion advanced civilizations in the universe. Which of course leads us naturally into the Fermi paradox, which again, simply put, is summed up by the question, if there are so many alien civilizations, where are they? And the answer to this is very simple. Any sufficiently advanced civilization would recognize truth, meaning the absolute and the relative, the non-physical and the physical. Since travel in the non-physical is practically instantaneous and one can make themselves visible or invisible to an observer in the non-physical as per their intent, the answer is that most of them would be in the non-physical, as it's simply the easiest way to travel long distances. Why drag a body around the universe when you can send a small piece of yourself over to the neighboring star cluster and scope things out in the densest portion of the non-physical realm? You know, the one that's overlaid and interpermeating our own physical reality. Much like in Star Trek, if a society is determined to be insufficiently advanced to have first contact, that'd probably be us right now, they're observed and protected and allowed to advance on their own until such a time as it would be beneficial for that species to learn. But crossing interstellar space brings up three main issues. First, space. Second, time. And third, communication. Space, to put it mildly, is huge, and traveling in rockets across the cosmos isn't feasible. Voyager 1, which is the fastest man-made object with a solar system escape trajectory, is traveling at 38,000 miles per hour and has been traveling for more than 40 years, and has just made it beyond the edge of our solar system. It'll take about 300 years to reach the inner edge of the Oort cloud, and about 30,000 years to come out the other side. When we understand the union between the physical and the non-physical, traveling across space becomes quite easy with a bit of practice, since you can simply leave your body, think your way across the universe, and then, with enough spiritual mastery, compose a new physical body on the other side as necessary. Of course, the amount of skill to do this isn't anything we'll be able to do anytime soon, but it is something we are inherently capable of doing. This is something masters have been doing for thousands of years, moving non-physically and materializing or dematerializing objects as needed. But it's not simply a matter of getting across the universe, it's a matter of time. What's the lifespan of an advanced civilization? 1,000 years? 10,000 years? 100,000 years? The universe is 13.5 billion years old and is constantly growing, constantly expanding. New planets and new stars are being born constantly. Even if another race of beings happen to be evolving in tandem with us, by the time we could send a rocket over, they may well no longer be an advanced species. In fact, the odds of another race of beings within a rocket's distance of us evolving within our time frame are extraordinarily slim. Traveling across the cosmos will necessarily require an ability to travel through time as well as space, so that we can meet other races while they're in their prime. Thankfully, built into the master plan is a solution to the problem. The non-physical exists outside of space and time, and it's as easy to travel back and forth through time as it is through space, in the same way that Ingo Swann was able to remote view things that happened decades in the past. So even if an alien race evolved 3 billion years ago and is long since gone, we could easily travel back to when they were at their peak. Of course, the last major hurdle relates to communication between people on Earth and those who venture outwards into interstellar space. Thankfully, again, an understanding of the non-physical allows us to communicate instantly through time and space, since all thoughts that are being thought, have been thought, and will be thought exist right now in the Akashic field. And let me take a moment to make what is hopefully a fairly obvious point. I'm giving you this information now, but this is not something that we'll be able to do right now. Even if you learn to astral project, you probably won't be meeting any aliens, despite your best efforts. Why? Because, again, we are not mature enough as a species to handle it. So, like my 4-year-old and my car keys, there are things that are held back from us until we are mature enough. So, it becomes incumbent upon us to raise the vibration of our species so that we have the spiritual maturity to handle the spiritual car keys. In each of our stages of evolution, we've been limited by our ability to traverse larger and larger distances quickly. We learned how to cross the sea in boats. We learned how to cross the land by rail or car. We learned how to cross the sky in airplanes. And we learned how to reach space with rockets. At each stage, the distance was great enough that a new method of travel, propulsion, and communication was necessary. We invented telegraphs, telephones, cellular, and satellite communications to broaden our ability to communicate over long distances. As we move into union with who we really are and embrace the connection between the physical and our true creative energy in the non-physical, we will be guided to learn to harness metaphysical or thought energy. Thought is creative, powerful, eternal, and unbounded by space and time. As Edgar Cayce said, the mind is the builder, and it is powerful indeed. As I mentioned briefly in video number 4 on the law of attraction, a sufficiently advanced yogi can, through thought alone, root your feet to the ground, unable to be moved, or levitate, or walk without leaving footprints. This is nothing more than the manipulation of gravity, one of the fundamental forces. The ability of certain mystics to manifest or transmute objects, such as Jesus turning water into wine, is simply the manipulation of the strong and weak nuclear forces. And of course, those of us who have lost loved ones know that manipulation of the electromagnetic force is possible as they flicker lights and turn on and off radios to get our attention. Tuning ourselves to these energies and learning to actively manipulate the fundamental forces will allow us to move rapidly through space and time and will usher in a new era of exploration. Again, I'll bring you back to the words of Jesus when he talked of faith and mustard seeds and mountains and such. Jesus' belief in your wellness was so strong that your illness couldn't exist in the same space. Jesus saw you in your divinity and then said, "Go forth and tell no one," because he knew that moving from source consciousness, some might say Christ consciousness, into ego consciousness would bring the illness back. We've already discussed at length the creative power of your thoughts. If someone with multiple personalities has one personality that is a diabetic and one personality that isn't, their blood sugar will alter when they switch personalities. If I hypnotized you into thinking a doorknob is red hot and you touched it, your skin would form blisters. And of course, we're all aware of the placebo and nocebo effects. Your mind is the builder, and you can move mountains. Even Neale Donald Walsch's trilogy, Conversations with God, bemoans our primitive societies. Asked to give an example of how humans are primitive, God states that we're still at the mercy of the weather. God notes that our geographic location sets the parameters, but we're perfectly capable of directing it. This is not some pie-in-the-sky fairy tale. The Bible has instances of Jesus directing the weather. Yogananda's writings contain instances of saints directing the weather. Even author Steve D'Amico, who we mentioned earlier, writes about how after he had achieved what he refers to as his enlightenment, he was trying to distract a friend of his as they walked along a beach, and he inadvertently manifested a cyclone which landed right on top of her, surrounding her for a few minutes, and then simply raised up, moved over the water, and landed, and then spiraled away. I'm guessing she was sufficiently distracted. As we progress spiritually, we're truly becoming a consciously creative society. We begin to think, if this is true, and this is true, and this is true, what else can we do? And I guarantee you, the questions we ask won't be, how do I make enough money to pay my bills? How do I get a new job? Or how do I get a new relationship? My worry and my anxiety largely went away when I realized that all my needs are always being met. So everything else is simply a preference. When I realized that the timing isn't up to me, I could simply leave it up to the universe to manage the pieces, and I simply find the joy in whatever I'm doing, and think of what I'd like to manifest next. Esther Hicks likes to describe herself as a pointer. As she says, she simply points at something she likes and then releases the thought, and eventually it manifests in her life about 80% of the time. The fundamental understanding of the formula for world peace will eventually bring about world peace and an abundant, global, egalitarian society. And once we recognize everyone's divinity, the politics of fear, separation, and superiority will no longer have sway over us, and will open the doors to even greater understandings. See, that's the key. There's always more to do, more things to explore, more truths to unfold, more potential to tap. It's our beliefs that keep us limited. So I'm trying to bust you out of some of your limiting beliefs. But like I said at the onset of this series, there's nothing in here that says you have to believe me. You don't have to believe a single thing I said. You can simply consider it an interesting thought experiment, or dismiss it entirely. Or, like me, you can seek your own evidence, ask for a sign, and see if you receive it. Ask your guides for a sign if what I'm saying is true. Then keep yourself open. Because it all rests on you, on your own free will, your own intent, your own openness, your own belief. Much like a walkie-talkie, your default mode is receiving. If you want to transmit, you have to, through your own intent and actions, press the button to be able to talk. Then you simply let go, or release, and the information you seek will come to you. So ask, release, and then wait and listen to the next song you hear, to the next book you see, or the next movie you watch. Or listen inwardly to your own guidance and thoughts. Thoughts arise. You don't think them. They arise in alignment with your vibration. Ask. Move into alignment with the correct thoughts, and your answers will come. I believe what I believe because I tested things. I tried things out. I experimented. And as Abraham Hicks will tell you, it's not words that teach. It's only life experience that teaches. So look to your guidance. It's there. It's always there. It's always been there. Which brings me to one final point. Way back at the beginning of this video series, back in video number 2 specifically, I said that I looked for a sign, an infinity symbol, if what I was hearing was accurate. Within a day, I saw one, backlit and bold as bold could be, on the side of a building. Now here's the rub. Now that you know that the non-physical exists outside of space and time, so that all of time is open to them. Did I pick the infinity symbol of my own free will, and the universe directed me towards it? Or did my guides know that I would have a good possibility of being in the vicinity of one in the next 24 hours, and inspire me to choose it? And the answer is It doesn't matter. All of life is a dance. It's the greatest tango in the universe. Sometimes you lead, sometimes you follow, but it's always exciting and fresh and new. And this amazing planet that provides so much potential for war and racism and conflict and inequality gives us an amazing opportunity to rise above it all, to see all of that and know intuitively that that's not our true nature. We can explore the concepts of fear, bitterness, hatred, anger, rage, and jealousy, and to know that something about it just feels wrong, which will cause us to turn inwards and rise, to open our hearts and rise, to hold in our minds a vision of the society we will have and rise. So rise with me. This planet we share is a magnificent jewel, and the people who inhabit it are divine. And we are always being guided to a future of untold possibilities, not just personally, but collectively. You see, this video series was never intended to help you manifest a better car or a better relationship, but to help you understand who you really are, to understand your power, to understand your potential, to help you understand what you're capable of, to get you to stop arguing for your limitations, to supercharge your creation magnet, and to know that at every step of the way, you are always guided, protected, and loved. This way, if you choose to manifest anything, whether it's a new TV or a new house or a new relationship or an equal society where all voices are honored and we support and uplift each other to be the greatest versions of ourselves that we can be, you can do it. Your guides are begging you to listen and follow their wisdom and guidance. This video series was designed to help you understand the bigger picture, to know that you are abundant and you are an eternal creator, creating joyfully within a time-space limited environment, designed to cause you to grow, heal, and seek out higher and higher experiences along the way home. It's designed for you to understand that the flower blooms when the flower blooms, and that the timing is not up to you. What's up to you is creating an environment of love, nurturing, and compassion, which allows the flower to become the best version of itself with plenty of fresh water, good soil, sunlight, and love. So relax a little, laugh a little, enjoy life a little. This future will come about when we're ready, when we've created an environment of love, nurturing, and compassion, when we surrender the ego and embrace our true natures. But you don't need to worry about the whole world. Healing the world is not about healing the world. It's about healing yourself and projecting that outwards. And what could be simpler? There's nothing you need to do but be. And there's nothing you need to be but you. The best version of yourself that you can be. Now, in this moment, and in each moment going forward. And once again, proud former atheist that I am, I leave you with a few bits of advice. First, the words of Jesus, stated many times throughout these videos. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else will be added unto you. Never let it be said, lo here or lo there, for the kingdom of heaven lies within. And the second, more succinct version from the apostles, John and Paul. All you need is love. Or maybe that was John and Paul of the Beatles. I forget. Regardless, as Augustine said, love, and then do what you will. If you've made it this far, I honor you. If my words have touched you, thank you for allowing me to speak. I come to you humbly, not as a spiritual teacher or a master or a guru, but as a simple man with a simple message, one that has been said many, many times before. And it was my honor sharing it again with you. God bless you. Namaste.